How unusual it must be for them to see the normally composed Miss Gales become a bundle of nerves. Poof! They became a bundle of nerves. That's a disgusting picture. Even the most boisterous ones have given me less grief today. You'd think being on my 4th cup of tea will provide any sort of comfort. Or is this the 5th? God, why does counting matter now? The fact that I can't easily shake it off this time should tell me something. The last time this happened, I passed it off as some lapse in my part after having been sick the week before.
And it is a natural conclusion.
Those are your stories. A centuries-old lore passed by the locals to keep children in line. What place doesn't have those? All my dad's books even went as far to describe them as a strong part of Isabella's culture. 3 giants, women who feed on unborn children straight from a mother's womb. Or hell, there's even that one story about the demon baby. Old folklore that never had a smidgen of truth in it was probably told to scare off the natives there back in the old days. Much like every other one in the other places. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling, perhaps it's not the bloody letter. Maybe there's more to the bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
Then she said, "In your face, motherfucker!" A terrible thing, if true. So, the thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon, the ring of my mobile takes my attention away from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up. My brows knit together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen. I try to remember when I entered this person on my contact list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eye zeroes in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out of the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence, a fellow history buff apparently. We were after the same book. In the end, she given it to me, and in the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be completely honest, I forgot about it until today. I forgot about it until now, and well, I haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally I'd be gone. Wait. Normally I'd be done with the whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out. But 1 or 2, depending on how busy I am. But finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than I anticipated. One moment I'm busy simply creating worksheets, attending a movie premiere the next, and somebody is suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend stopped showing up in her flat, right after worrying reports popped up in the local news. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. I've been flipping through these pages of the said book moments ago, but never really reading anything and merely hoping for distraction. No avail. Why? I must go later. See ya later. Please. Here we go. Fuck, I hate this little thing. She'll get a better shot. Wait a moment. Okay, nothing here. My phone gives out another ring, and this time I do not hesitate to answer.
Marianne?
Hopefully try it.
Here I was starting to wonder if it was a bad time to call. Is it?
No, not at all. I dismissed my last class a few minutes ago. I'm pretty much free for the rest of the afternoon.
Comet! Welcome to stream, mate. How are you doing today? Are you doing alright, Comet? Are you doing alright?
Unless something comes up. Is this about last time? The book?
Not really. I was hoping to ask you about some other thing.
Oh, sure. What about?
Good to hear, Comet. Good to hear.
You grew up in this city, didn't you?
It's a peculiar question to ask someone you just met. But I answer her nevertheless. I'm more curious where she is heading with this, but starting with that.
Born and raised, third-generation migrant. Why do you ask?
So, you must be familiar with the local lore. The, stories?
Quite. If I'm going to teach about history, I'd like to think I am, yeah? But a family friend would be a better person to ask. If you want, I can contact him for you.
No, let's just keep this thing between us, okay? It's nothing too big. Alright, I really don't know how else to put this without sounding a bit crazy. But things have been really, odd.
Oh,
Do you remember the mansion I mentioned back when we met? My current project?
in hindsight, I should have expected it will lead to this. She must not have lived here long, if she's just asking about this now. It didn't take a week with Isabella when she arrived, but that's Isabella. Superstition down to the last hair. Whoa, it won't be too far off to think Marianne has only started thinking about this recently. She's working on the damn house itself. I must admit, even I'm curious now, despite living here for so many years. Having so many chances to look it up before.
The Ermengarde mansion, yes?
Yes, that one. And, the thing is...
The thing is, what is the thing?
Oh dear, this is a bad idea. You know what? Just forget I ever called you about this.
It must have been the sunny weather. It's making me sick and see stupid things. See things?
No, wait. It's all right. I don't mind.
There's a moment pause before she responds again. She's right in that. This is a silly thing to talk about. especially between what I assume two people who are pretty grounded on their beliefs, with no regard of these things. Sometimes there's no voice, so I cannot activate the voice. I won't blame her if she hesitates.
I can't believe I'm asking you about this.
It's fine. Why don't you just think of it as some form of research?
Well, alright. But after this, we're going to forget we ever had this talk.
My lips will be sealed. Now, what is it about the mansion?
Just, what do you know about it? The general gist. The place is past. What happened to the owners? Anything you can give me.
Let's see. To start off,
I do my best to give her a concise summary. From the time the house was commissioned 400 years ago, and who had built it. Who had it built? Up to the point it got deserted after last heir's death, and the deed was passed on to Ermengarde's nearest relatives. Frankly, if it weren't for those urban legends persisting, the house would have already faded into obscurity long ago. Demolished even. These are all nothing she probably has heard of before, yet there's a dissatisfaction in her tone once I finish.
That's all there really is to it?
as far as I know. There's this little bit I forgot to mention about Lady Charlotte Ermengarde's death, but most of those are just theories. Aside from that, this is really everything we've been teaching all these years. Should there be anything more?
No mention of any other weird stuff? Other crazy stories? Or a letter of some sort?
My blood runs cold, and the warmth and comfort the tea I drank was given me prior has instantly been drained out of me. The thumb creaks softly in my light hold as it turns into a firm grip. The whole leather bullshit is starting to turn into more than coincidence.
None that I've heard or read of. What does a letter have to do with this?
Oh, no. It was just something I came across. Ignore it. Random thoughts, you know? By the way, I need to run. Thanks for answering my questions.
Dance the call abruptly. It's only a clip goodbye, leaving my mind heavy with even more thoughts. The mood around my classroom has gone considerable tenser, in light of what little I have gleaned from that conversation. I don't think Marianne's lying about her intent. Her interest is genuine. I'd give her that, but she left a lot of things out. I had the sense she only asked because something happened around her too. And if she hadn't mentioned the letter, I probably wouldn't have made the connection.
Just what the hell did we get ourselves into?
Of course, there's still a lot of confusing details in this. All of these are just assumptions. No concrete conclusion to be formed with what we have. And if we want to find out what we're really dealing with, I think Marianne's right. There might be something more to the stories. As absurd as it sounds, the very place that gave us the letter might tell us something beyond what we know. Tomorrow night, I have a few hours of that chance at the housewarming party. Totally not an excited thought. Since the place is privately owned now, I cannot just wander around. But it's enough reason to keep the dread at bay, as I step out of the room, ready to put an end to this day. However, all those good vibes disappeared into thin air when I run head first into Luke. There's really something in this man. God damn it. Regardless how much my opinion of him has changed over the span of few hours, he simply blasts through every good impression people has of him without care or thought. He doesn't even need to open his mouth, his mere presence does it. In all honesty, I think he's the kind of guy only a mother can love.
You're still here?
Obviously. Who do you think's standing in front of you?
I'm hungry! Burger and strips there.
An ass.
Oh, come on, Daisy. You've done better than that. Losing your touch?
Luke, I don't have time for this. I'm heading home, and your face is the last thing I want to see before I leave. What do you want?
Belatedly, I notice his hand. Partly raised, almost poised for a knock. At a slight lift of an eyebrow, he quickly drops it to his side and turns to Kylie. She's standing a few steps away from him, holding her hands behind her back and towing at something on the floor with the tip of her shoe. Then he proceeds to make a vague gesture at me with the child. It resembles a fish flopping for air. It's the way he's moving his arm. Though I think he's trying to urge her to speak up.
Munchkin, I thought you wanted to tell her something.
You do it, Teal.
This wasn't my idea, darling.
Don't worry. I won't tell Tia what you told me the other day. And this morning.
Luke exhales, rolling his eyes at the ceiling and maybe praying for the universe to grant him more patience. He knows a losing battle when he sees one. He makes act worse than a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum at times, but he's no match for an actual child. Nothing better than being served a dose of his own medicine, eh? Once his frustration has been promptly let out, he points a rude finger at me. I do my best to stare the offending digit down. I can already hear the demand before it's even out of his lips.
You, come with us.
What makes you think I will?
Because little Rugrat here is upset and worried, and it's your bloody fault. I've no idea what happened this morning, but if you don't come with us, I won't be hearing the end of it from her. So do me a favor, Daisy, and just be glad I'm inviting you.
You're asking for a favor, and you can't be bothered to be polite? I don't know. It's been a really busy day for me. I kind of miss my couch.
Daisy, you just say yes.
A pause follows, almost too dramatic. Afterwards, his face twists into something between a grimace and a smile. As it happens, he appears like he's in a lot of physical pain. You think the man is getting an aneurysm by simply being polite.
Please?
You should play Universe Sandbox too. Why should I do that?
Tia said it'll be his treat.
What? I said no such thing, Munchkin. I only agreed to this because you requested it. I'm under no obligation to feed her.
I promise we'll be quiet the next time I visit.
Oh, all right, but just one meal and make it the cheapest.
He and Ashton will get along famously on that department. On a different front, the offer of a free dinner does sound enticing, however half-heartedly given it is. Partly because Kyla has wisely put her puppy eyes by the second. I find all my choices slipping away from me.
See, Miss Pink? It'll be fun! You don't have to feel sad anymore, okay?
Oh, well,
Oh, I'm supposed to read. My mobile buzzes from my pocket, cutting me mid-sentence for a second. I spare from the act of giving an answer. I regret it either way. Fishing and getting out, I wave a hand at him and excuse myself. A disgruntled expression is on Luke's face before I turn away. I'd be lying if I say it didn't amuse me. He's as eager to be done with this as I am, but what can I do? Checking a message from Ashton shows up. Hi Becca, I'll be around Selswell this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop you by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya. Just the usual. Unlike what it does to Zachary, Ashton has the decency. Let us know when he's dropping by, when he's in the area for some business. On the way it's phrased, it sounds to be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of the boundary. Not that Isabella is going to let him leave the building unscathed, if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him. Signing. I sound as a signing. I slipped the gadget back into my pocket. I'm looking up to see Luke's utter impatience on his face. I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his action alone. I kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's gonna to wait, but he's expecting me to be there. But there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Us warming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he will be busy this week, and well, Ashton has been my first choice from the start. Even if it detests attending gatherings like this, it's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them. And it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. By some miracle he agrees to it, he will probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice, when you put it like that, still. In the end, my fondness for Kylie that wins out. Chances are, I'll only have to endure his presence for an hour or two. If it lasts more than that, I'll make an excuse. Sorry, call from a friend, or things to work on. My back was itchy. Doesn't seem so bad when I think about the pros and cons. At the best, it will be a quiet dinner. At worst, it will be an awkward affair we're both eager to be rid of. I'm leaning more to the latter happening, hoping for the former, of course.
Okay, but only because Kylie asked.
Like if I choose any of this, then the point will be... Oh, there's a long straight line through all this. And this, this, and then a long line there. This is a long chapter. Kylie's face instantly lights up. For the third time today, he tackles me in the hug before pulling away and dragging me by the hand towards the building exit.
That's alright. I'm sure Tio doesn't mind. He let me pick where we're going to eat. Don't worry, it's just close.
Luke follows closely behind. Perhaps all of them decide to keep the dead air away. Ah, it's your back. Decide to keep the air away. I can't resist throwing in a quib.
Keep your distance. You better not do anything funny, you hear?
I'm the one who should keep my distance.
Oh.
May I remind you who approached me first and what you did right after?
Oh, I remember it clearly. But perhaps it's you who needs a reminder. You seem to have never learned your lesson. Care we give it another try? Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick.
Maybe this time it'll stick.
You think you're scary? I'll show you what's scary.
To my surprise, his tone lacks the usual sardonic note in it, and briefly I paused to stare at him. He quickly shut his mouth right after and walks ahead of us. All talk and no rustle like the usual, and for the better part of our walk, except from Kylie's excited chatter, we don't speak. Somehow I have this strange feeling I'm already getting used to this kind of banter with him. I'm not sure if it's a good or bad thing. And amidst the newfound friendship, dare I call it that, Ashton's message lies forgotten and abandoned in my pocket. Dinner date! Of all the places nearest the school, Kylie picks the one and waiting for food to be served. It's as awkward as I imagine it will be. Not the bad sort though. The pleasant kind. Surprisingly, Luke's an okay bloke when he tries. So long as you're willing to look past the tactless remarks, or we're not exchanging acrylic quibs. It's clear that he's making an effort for this to be as fun as possible for the 6-year-old, by being chattier, even going as far to laugh when Kylie's story calls for it. It's an interesting thing to hear from the man. More than once I catch his frequent sheath of expression, eating whatever he looks at the girl.
And your friend? Did you make up with her?
Come here.
Yep. She said she just saw something she didn't like. She didn't accept the jellies, though. She told me to give it to you instead. She knows you like the red ones, too.
Very well. Hand it to me later. I'll bring some of them home. I think your Tia would love to have some.
What a terrible liar. Damn it. It's your back, it's your back. He says he disliked the idea of having children of his own, but it's easy to see some part of him genuinely wants them. What's stopping him? Once Kylie wanders to nearby bookshelves, after having lost interest in the conversation, however, we both revert back to silence. Oh. On our own, we have a little talk about, aside from a curious question about the other here and there. At one point, it does veer to local politics and history. It's surprisingly versed in that he can hold a decent conversation without throwing a jibe. Nothing too personal is ever mentioned so far, though it's too early for those, and besides, I don't like him enough to speak of every minute till tale of my life. But I keep it strictly between the silence and the casual repartee. This whole thing already looks and feels wrong on so many levels. I'm quite sure he feels the same. So, when another bout of silence hits us and becomes too much, I've taken to finding someone else to occupy myself. I use my mobile, turning it from hand to hand while we wait for respective meals. But it will be a complete life and then... Fuck. Oops, sorry. I need to go. Fuck. I always punch this. Fix this as well. My seat. Yeah, my seat is perfect. I needed to fix something. Something to pull me away from this place. Someone. I should probably at Salome well. But it's time. Working on whatever business he has there. Maybe if I make an excuse and leave now, I can still catch him.
Cut that out, it's distracting.
My hand stills. Only the gadget awkwardly between us. Arrested mid-pass by his bored tone. He's been quiet for a long minute now, after complaining of what appealing the tea they're serving here. Yes? Before that, he whined about how uncomfortable his chair is and tasteless the decoration they have here. Previous to that, he has grip about how dull the place is, compared to the one he frequents on the upper class side of the city. But I'm sorry for being a punch of peasant, your majesty. Because he will lose patience soon. Have already gambled about almost everything in his high eyes can see. Reach. It's just unfortunate he's turned to me now.
Why don't you just look somewhere else?
I can't. If I turn elsewhere, I might end up looking at the bobfuck right behind us.
Bob, do I even want to ask?
I don't even want to hear it. If it's coming from out of his mouth, it can only be either rude or offensive. Regardless, it continues.
Everything looks good. But have you seen the face? True horror.
What is wrong with you? You know, I frown about this in practice, but that mouth needs to be washed out with a particularly potent soap, preferably by your own mum.
A shame she isn't here,
For whatever reason, let's put an end to that talk right away. He returns to watching his godchild, who has found a particularly interesting picture book, and is now poring over it, while I turn back to my mobile. Still no message. Will it kill him to at least send a message, shake if I were home? Meanwhile, Luke's silence lasts all about 10 seconds.
What is it with the damn mobile? Are you on a curfew?
He got the immature act on pad. I'll leave him that. Seriously, how old is this guy? Didn't someone be deprived of affection during his childhood?
And what is it to you? I don't think it's any of your business what I do with it.
It is my business, alright? 1, I'm the one paying here. 2, I'm being forced to eat dinner in a place this stuffed and noisy. Lastly, it's been 10 minutes, the food isn't here, and I'm hungry. What you're doing with the mobile is annoying and distracting. when the least you could do is keep things entertaining while I suffer.
That's your problem? Shouldn't you be more worried about how this entire affair looks to other people?
Oh, I didn't realize this was one. You move fast, Daisy. You could have informed me first, you know. Had I known, I would have taken you someplace nicer. Certainly the kind with better food and plenty of good wine.
Why did I ever think this was a good idea? Did it ever occur to you how inappropriate this might look to everyone?
Why should I care? It's only inappropriate if you make it out to be. Relax, I won't do anything to make your boyfriend angry. He doesn't even need to know we dined out. It'll be our dirty little secret.
He's not my boyfriend!
The reverse comes out with more force than I intended. By the time I realize my slip up, his lips are already spreading the sneer. He is slowly crossed up my face.
Oh, so there is someone. You're so easy to read.
Briefly, his eyes search my face. I have no idea what he sees, nor do I care to know. But in the next second he barks out a laugh, displaying his amusement, without reserve, to everyone within earshot. In that moment, I know I flipped a switch in him somewhere, and I lost my chance to deny his assumption. Do I even want to? Isn't that the reason why I've been so focused on my mobile? Waiting for another message for him. While reaching to dump this awkward meeting, go after him.
Look how mottled you are. Now the nickname makes more sense. Shy Miss Pink and her cute little crush. The color suits you, by the way. It matches the hair.
It's not a crush!
Classic denial. But in reality, you want him to be yours, and your every move is made to make him notice you. In fact, you don't want him to see you with another man in a non-professional capacity, because he might misinterpret it.
The same thing goes for you, doesn't it? Bloody, yours is even worse. What about your wife? Aren't you concerned she might misinterpret this?
Daisy, just because we tied the knot doesn't mean we have to be joined at the hip at every single opportunity.
Don't be ridiculous. Why else would you marry her if you don't want to be with her for the rest of your lives?
Because, Daisy, she also has other things she can do with her life and friends to spend time with. Granted, I don't like some of them, and I have a few of my own she utterly dislikes. But wifey doesn't have to know my every move. Nor do I hers. Do you know how boring that would be? To be with the same person for all hours of the day, losing sleep over the mere fact they're not with you, or putting everything you have aside to please them, to have your whole world revolve around one person.
Aren't you just mistaking that for something else? Unlike you, there are other people here who don't share the same jaded outlook you have. Don't lump everyone together just because it didn't work out for you.
And you, my dear, are unexpectedly naive.
What's so naive about it? If you love each other, wouldn't you want to always see them, be with them, to have them focus solely on you? Maybe you haven't been loved enough.
Oh, it's that kind of thing for you, isn't it? The love is eternal, love is a strong emotion shite. A starry-eyed girl pining for her dashing Prince Charming? What's next? Romantic confessions of love? A grand wedding on the beach? Dozens of spawns running around in some picturesque home in the suburbs? How quaint. Are you also expecting it's going to be sunshine and rainbows after? A happily ever after? Please.
What? I never once said... And is all of that such a bad thing to hope for?
Woman, I've been married for 7 years, and I'm telling you, it's far from what you have in your pretty red head. Tell me, how long has this song and dance been going for you and your man? Maybe I am mistaken.
Averting my eyes from him is all I managed to do. What does his mere 7 years have compared to the 17 I had with Ash? It's laughable. He thinks those two things are even comparable. As in, I may not have never moved past the boundaries of friendship, like what I'm hoping for now for years. But what we have isn't something anyone can scoff at. I've always been by his side, endured everything with him. I know him better than anyone. No matter what this man, this complete stranger says, I know there will always be a place for him, me beside him. And yet.
Come on, Daisy, that shouldn't be too hard. 3, 5, 8, 10, 20.
His words easily seep into my heart like sharp daggers, gradually picking apart everything I've been sure of. Despite myself and the doubts resurface, my defense crumble right in front of my eyes. No wonder he sees through me. I suspected he ridicules it. Restrained, low and rumbling, the sharp sounds ringing the air around us, amidst the murmur of people, and the soft notes of the music playing over our heads. His shoulders shake, and when his milk becomes too much for even him, he reaches up a hand and pats it over his face, as I hold it glee close to him. Fucking cold.
Bloody bullocks, this is just brilliant. Oh, mother, why do I always keep running into these things? This day couldn't get any better. I think I'm gonna need a stiff drink after this.
It resulted in another peal of laughter. But when it subsided, what he has for me are mere words, scathing each of them. The urge to run from here has never been this strong.
Is everything you said how you plan to act? If that man of yours ever ends up with you, cling to him? Put him on a bloody pedestal? Let him become the center of your universe? Although with how long this seems to be going on, I think you've already done so. Marriage will just be icing on the top. Like some sort of reward for you, isn't it? For being a good, patient, loyal little girl all this time, never looking at another man. He must have been having a grand time with someone pining over him this long. I'm a little envious, to be honest. Maybe also a little surprised he hasn't suffocated from all your attention yet.
Laugh all about it if you want. It's not like you'll ever understand.
Luke falls silent. The ridicule in him is gone in an instant, and his eyes meet mine, sharp and imposing. A challenge, but I hold it against him with the same intensity, because if there's something I won't let his opinion trample on, it's this. What does he know? However, he's the first one to look away, focusing eyes back to where Kylie is. And for a moment, I believe I won. Until he draws his breath and turns back to me. The words he drops next, though hushed, makes heavily in the distance between
You're
us.
right. I won't. But I do know not to mistake love for obsession, woman. They are not the same thing.
It rattles. All of everything he said tonight. This is the one that the thing that twings my heart. Maybe it's the manner he delivers it, the lack of conceit in his posture. Or underlying insult in the tone he takes. The remark is not meant to cut, merely express a simple truth. This time, it's he who holds the gaze against mine. Another unspoken challenge, I realized that. If this happened on minutes before, I already have an equally searing retort at the tip of my tongue. Yes, none. But the anger is there, wriggling at my insides, prodding at the uncertainties I'm long kept. How long is this fucking text? I mean, oh god. Isn't it enough? We had the long years we've been together. We have the memories, whenever he needs me. And all the people came in between us. I've always been the one there. That dedication and loyalty should mean something, shouldn't it? I've always been sure of it. And that one day, you'll see it for what it is. In spite of that, in this minute, under this man's scrutiny, my own heart wavers. Oh. However, those are for me to ponder on. This art does not need to hear them, and neither is he entitled to them, because it dishes out some profound sounding life wisdom no one asks for. So I look away, hoping my own silence will be enough of an answer for him. And it is, for a moment. Until warm, furious tears prickle behind my eyes, stinging, begging for release, along with every other frustration this dumb talk has built up in me. All because of this man. I hate him. I hate the fact that he has to be the one to see me in this story state. I'm already expecting another bar from him. When his expression shifts. Except he panics. In the span of 3 seconds, his expression changes from indifferent to concerned to utter panic. Would probably have been funny, but when it's so irked by the sight of the clay kit past him.
Hey, are you crying? Are you going to cry?
It's a bag.
Stop that right now, woman, or I'll...
Will you shut up?
He climbs up almost before I could finish. Whether this is due to the sudden force in my voice, or how I look, I pretend not to think of it. He seems like the deer caught in the headlights is what he's making himself small in his seat. But I'm still pissed. I'm tired. If I can punch him, can I at least scream at him?
You're an annoying bag of dick, you know that?
Oh fuck. No way, it's gonna hurt like hell.
If I hear another word from you, I'm sewing that bloody mouth shut myself!
That's the trick. Not the effect I hoped, but the moment I snapped at him, the sting at the back of my eyes melts away, and a strange calm overcomes me. A fragile thing when the fun in the middle of a busy coffee shop. Nevertheless, it's appreciated considering it doesn't last. Immediately broken by the very person that put me in this state, with a few awkward pats on my shoulder. Done twice, thrice, and another. Until my patience runs out again and I'm pulling out of the book of my bag, raising it threateningly over his head. It'll surely dent his skull if it slams down at his height. Part of me wants to see that. I restrained myself. He has the good sense to recall though. Charlie shrinks back to his seat and waves his hand in front of him in a gesture of surrender.
Watch that book, woman. I already warned you about your little threats. You don't want to see my brand of angry.
I need to be right back for a moment. Or just a short moment. I'm back again. I'm back again. Back again. Huh. There it is. Now I can itch myself back.
Then keep your hands to yourself!
Ah, finally.
All right, that's it. People these days, I swear you treat them nicely and this is where it gets me.
You're the last person I'd ever want to comfort me. Even if we're the only two remaining people on Earth. Don't flatter yourself.
Okay, have it your way, Daisy.
And stop calling me Daisy! I have a name, you know!
Well, he muttered something inaudible under his breath. Afterwards, he doesn't say anything further. But the next minute, he simply contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins, folding them into clean shapes without clear intent, before crumbling them in his hands when he loses interest and dumping in the small pile on front of him. Waiter serves our meal soon enough. Callie makes her way back to our table. But before I can take a single bite, he mutters something. The words spoken in the same tone is used since morning, on his breath, whenever the honest part of himself will show. Despite my rather confusing opinion of the map, I stop short of solving my mouth to look at him. His eyes on the food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of his meat on his plate. But what comes out of him only rings true against my ears, above the din of the coffee house.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you.
Oh. Oh. Oh! He can do it! Fucking hell, he can do it! He can be nice. This is good to hear.
Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
He spears a piece of food, pops it into his mouth, and that's all. The whole day with this man, and I can still figure out his deal, yes. But for what's worth, as well, I don't think he's an entirely bad guy. The rest of our meal slips in by silence afterward. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes on by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow we managed to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's sitting in front of us. And two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation. With my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house, just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. The same wordless silence fills our short walk back to the school. Except for when Luke gestured at a nearby flower shop and ended it without waiting for Kylie Nye. He emerged minutes later, carrying a bouquet of daffodils, with the same softened expression back on his face. Unlike the previous one, he tucks this one away almost as soon as he looks up at us, a moment he is not willing to share. In my confusion, he merely answered with a shrug and continues walking.
For someone important.
I accept it for what it is. If only he doesn't owe me an explanation. It does leave more questions about him, each one as baffling as the previous one. Those are the last words spoken this evening before we head our own ways. Up until I arrive home, I still can't understand him. Here, however, a whole different set of questions awaits me. And much like everything today, it comes with the little things. A long nose greets me upon reaching my unit's door. Its edges flutter lightly against the faint, warm breeze passing through the small complex. My hand stopped short of twisting the knob as I stare at it, for I didn't make any moves to take it. Dropped by earlier. You went around, and I did very scary caddies. I couldn't contact her. Inspector Abigail has a few questions. LPT stuff. Something about her dead co-workers. Anyway, let me know how the two of you have been doing. Oh. The message he left short, but straight to the point. But not without the underlying hint of friendship. They're looking for Isabella, apparently. Something about the LPT's investigation of her co-workers' death, but ends its formal tone by checking on me. Us. Another day, the former part of his message will likely prod at the piercing envy I've been holding, while the latter will probably send my heart aflutter. Little thing from him that I want to mean something more. Yet this time, only guilt fills me, with my eyes briefly towards the Isabella empty unit. Luke's words repeat inside my head as I do so.
For what it's worth, Rebecca, I didn't ever think that's all there is to you. Why else would I leave my own goddaughter in your care if you're just some lovesick woman?
Have I always been like this?
It's selfish. In truth, I intended to call Ash after that dinner, but I didn't catch him here. Invite him to the party like I planned. There's time, and he's still probably awake around this hour. But my hands won't move. And perhaps it is for the better. Until I have the time to think this through, it will be best if I distance myself from those I've been clinging tightly to. Find a different perspective and see things from what they are. With a soft sigh, I reach for the note and crumple it under my hand. The note twists open and much ease when I enter this time. Maybe after some introspection, it will be easier. But tomorrow, I have that woman and the mansion to worry about. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, it's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness, unlike the ones greeting me every morn. There's one uneasy, tied with anticipation, like a string stitched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant. The edge is there. As expected, the second step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken by the voices of two squabbling adults echoing from the floor below. Quiet was nice while it lasted. Shame.
What the hell were you thinking?
I wasn't. Ow! Could you let go?
Not a few seconds later, they both ascend the stairs, Sasha pulling Isabella by her wrist. She struggles, as she should, but his hold on her remains firm. Freeing herself means having to draw blood. She attempts to pry his hands off with her other one, or using unnecessary force to push herself away. Neither of which is better than the other. One could potentially end in an accident, while the other means having to hurt him physically. She has the good sense to realize that, at least. However, it doesn't take the desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. So on they go, none the wiser to my presence.
You have any idea how much trouble you could get in?
That's why I'm asking you for help.
Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabella.
Rose died, Ash.
I know. Every single person in Luxburg knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean...
People are missing. Some of those are my friends. And BRC's just covering it all up.
You can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it, right off the bat. This isn't a children's game, Isabella. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason. We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us.
Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will...
It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. I'm sick of it. It was funny the first time, not so much now.
You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't.
All right, you two are awfully loud. What's going on here?
Both of their heads snap up, almost in unison, a displeased frown on each of their faces. But this is necessary interruption. What can I do? People still in the unit have already taken interest on the commotion, with some taking a peek behind the curtains, while others are bold enough to kick open doors, if only slightly. If they don't keep it down pretty soon, a landlady will show up. Getting a reprimand from her is the last thing I want to happen. First thing on a Friday morning. Even if this is hardly my fault.
Well, if you want to continue this, you two better do it elsewhere. You're disturbing other people.
Don't worry, we're done here.
No, we aren't. Becca, I looked it up. I called them. I visited some of them and...
Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabella, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing. A team has already been assigned to it. Leave it to us.
Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way. Becca, it's not just Rose. There are others.
The last bit strikes a chord, close thrown at the memory. That vicious smile already etched deeply inside my mind. The image appears clear enough that, the mere mention of it, I stumble on my own question.
What do you mean?
The letter, Rebecca! It's not...
It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that dumb letter, none of us would be standing here. We've all read it, haven't we? But Rebecca's alive, Zach's alive, I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse. There's a murderer on the loose, and your coworkers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabella. It's too early for this shit.
Don't you think that's too much for a coincidence?
Not so much. Most serial killers follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time. And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is, civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger.
I wasn't chasing after...
Will the both of you slow down and stop arguing for a minute? What's this about your coworkers, Belle?
Becca, please don't tell me now you believe this shit.
Sure, in a heartbeat I'll agree with Ashton. But that's has always been. That's how it always has been. I'm gonna say it. That's how it has always been. Besides having a good point, really, they are very... I cannot read, honestly. Oh, they are the very same ones he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is from what I've been seeing, sensing the past few days. It does matter what Isabella and I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me. The letter he picked up is the heart of this. But however, respond to the question in their faces. Only one of them will be pleased with it. Ashton in particular won't be too happy to hear it. Imagine the look on his face doesn't take too much effort. The entire posture shifts the moment my reluctance shove. Shoulders tensing, brows furrowing, eyes gaining a sharp edge. He's already bracing himself for the disappointment. And it will be a disappointment. Not in a million years did I ever believe I'll be saying this either.
I might have seen her. The woman Belle's been telling us about. The one she said she saw in the attic.
Both of them stare at me like I've grown an extra head for a few moments. Ashton looks as if he's about to have a fit. A pause treads at its heels after, a silence thick enough one can almost hear a pin drop.
You're kidding, right?
Do I look like I'm joking?
Really, Becca? Not funny.
Ash, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this? It's been this way since the film fest. The past few days have been really odd since we read that letter.
Or maybe you're all just feeling under the weather.
I'm not sick. Don't you think I'd know that by now?
Becca, you're starting to sound like Scaredy Cat. Give me a break.
Why don't you?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you two.
Isabella's voice cuts sharply through the conversation, abruptly putting an end to the brewing argument.
It's all my fault. This is all my fault. I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. I'm sorry for dragging you all into this.
She breathes in, steep, steadying, and in that moment something falls behind her eyes as she looks away.
I'll fix this. I promise.
A quiet resolve. The same one I saw in her that night from 3 days ago. But this time it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at this sight. When she looks him straight in the eye, gaze unflinching, gradually his grip on her wrist loosens.
Belle, there's nothing to fix. The problem is...
Just this once, Ash.
Her voice, so small and lacking in force, stops him. Along with it, every sound, every noise dies around us, a hush descending as if the world is waiting for words.
You don't have to come with me, but if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it.
She lays a hand on top of his, gentle, pleading, almost intimidate. One does not consider the circumstances we found ourselves in.
Please.
Ashton will never tell us all. Will never admit to even himself. But in that short second, that his own resolve breaks. The moment the hard edge in his eyes soften, and he relinquishes his hold on her, letting his hand fall limply to his side. Wordlessly, Isabella steps back and runs off, leaving only a murky thanks and a small lackluster smile. Only after this last of her footsteps fade away does Ashton move, breaking the silence with one of the sharp exhales before reaching out to pinch the bridge of his nose. In a gesture of frustration or surrender.
Did you really have to tell her that?
What do you want to hear from me then? That everything's fine?
No, I want all of you to stop putting these ideas in her head. None of it is helping. Never mind. Don't worry about her. I'll bring her back here.
It's already poised to leave when my own instinct takes over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow with the same unyielding grip, the action prompted by voices whispering at the back of my mind. I already made it clear he's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where all this will take us, how all this will end. Shouldn't be caught off guard, belief notwithstanding.
Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying. And you know me. I'm less inclined to believe in those things as you do. But I've seen something. There's something strange going on here. You don't have to buy it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But please, try to hear her out. It's bad enough that Isabella goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it. Talk to her, okay?
As if she trusts me enough for that.
Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this, instead of me, already say a lot?
A different kind of trust, granted implicitly, never spoken, sometimes too big to fragile to last. I was silent for a moment, then he turns it over in his mind. In the end, all he managed to offer is a small nod before he departs, and promised to, at least, listen to her, without the teasing or the yipes. A favor for me, and the least he could do for her. This is as much as I can do for him, as well, until I understood what's happening myself. Tonight, hopefully, where it all started, will provide the answer I'm looking for. Except the whole thing is off to a bad start. And all of a sudden, whatever Isabella claims dwelling in this mansion becomes the least of my concern. All of the cabins in Luxborn, I have a chance upon the superstition one. Still not as bad as finding out your car starter refuses to crank on, and it was still working this morning, yes. Equally as frustrating when you're forced to walk the rest of the way. All because the driver got spooked. Isabella and him will get along so well. I don't get his reason, after all. I have had my fair taste of the bizarre lately. All of this might have been brought up by the letter Isabella found here. I think it started at least be charitable enough to take me a little closer to the house itself, not a distance 50 minutes away from it by foot. Good thing I'm not wearing anything too formal or constricted. Otherwise, that short walk would like to put me in a bad mood, long before I have to suffer a room full of strangers tonight. Although this soon provides a problem the second the driveway comes into view and I'm near the entrance. Well, severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars, worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined, line the mansion front yard. Men and women decked out in the best and also flocked near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing in front of the park speaks, Their undivided attention immediately shifted to her. Presumably Mrs. Wright, from the confident manner she holds herself among the present company. This, despite keeping a far similar appearance than the rest of her own guests, or not, having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she is the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxbourne.
Welcome everyone.
And Mom said we could have been good friends. I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guest she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar, now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in the vanity, not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my tastes. They flit briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above a buzz of an enraptured audience again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I can share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all this extravagance, for the lack of better terms, really it makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. I shouldn't have let Luke's words affect me like that. I should have just gone ahead and asked Ashton like I planned. If he were here, then I won't have to.
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
The rest of the thought died in my mind at once. A moment of astonishment overcomes me, before confusion sets in a second later. It takes another for my body to catch up. Valentina Grosu, welcome to the stream, mate! How are you doing today? Are you doing alright, Valentina? Once it does, when I finally turn to see it for myself. His familiar mop hair to catch my eyes first. And there he is, almost an arm's reach if it isn't for the guest standing between us. Ashton Frey, standing in the standing in Ermagan Mansion driveway with an air to lack Deepcool for someone who absolutely abhors parties of any form, or has any business here as far as I know. I'm quite alright. I'm not completely fine, but alright. Just having problem with reading and voicing and stuff like that. The picture it forms is too bizarre for me, that my mouth speaks out ahead of any coherent thought.
Ashton?
His wheels on the heel, with an equally puzzled face. An odd expression flashes momentarily across it once he sees me, though he flings it away before I can figure out what it is exactly.
Becca, what are you doing here?
I was invited.
Really? I had no idea you were friends with the host.
Well, it's my parents, actually. But that's beside the point. What are you doing here? You hate parties.
I still do. I'm just here on behalf of a friend.
That in itself is weird coming from him. It doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they are focused on point in the crowd. His gaze darting between people walking past us. A small frown forms in his head.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you then?
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
Chief?
Ashton, what's...
Unexpectedly, he places a hand on my shoulder, stopping me in mid-sentence. He still has the distracted look on him, except this time, his eyes are sharper, as if he has found what or who has been searching for among the throng of partygoers earlier.
Sorry, Becca, I need to... There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later. Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
My immediate smile he hastily throws my way is a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already has turned his back for me and is walking away without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted his sudden departure at his odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what exact?
Oh, only for my attempts to be interrupted by the muffled ringing from my pocket. Mom's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. It's just a simple hello and reminder to enjoy the party and to send their regards to the old student. But when the call ends and I get to look up, Ashton is already nowhere in sight. Oh, wait. I've gone this far. Whoa, that's... So I'm soon at the end, and you should just a few socials away from ending this. With a sigh, and admittedly a little disappointment, I took my mobile back into my pocket and I head inside. Even with the familiar company, however, coincidental this meeting is, this is somehow shaping up to a terrible evening. The party hits full swing an hour later. With the host opening remarks given, still no sign of her husband, the poor woman, and the guests promptly fed, the band shifts to melody to a livelier tune. Soon laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fills the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I admit, fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music their own, almost with no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd join the crowd for a song or two. But it isn't lack of invitation, however. Anyway, none of them, in fact, with some asking for more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can. A single nod is all they take, and the evening will have been far enjoyable for me. But pride and my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them, by him, curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. Because doing so also means outright acknowledging the douche's claims. That he has to be the one to tell me that still sends the blood boiling. I would have preferred someone more agreeable, less of an arse. It's hard a truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of making denial difficult can't even spare me a minute of his attention, or a single glance at me the whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the event, to boot. But at least he managed to slip in a conversation or two between takes, or a small wave of his hand when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out of sight the whole time. The moment he's hanging around a small group, and another he's hovering around this string band. Just a second ago, he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next thing I know, he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he doesn't want to be with any of his friends. Is it because his boss is here? What's the big deal about that? It has never bothered him before.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Her voice almost makes me jump. To focus on the gobshite wandering around the ballroom, and my own annoyance to notice. If she heard any of the profanities I mumbled, or she taken notice of my confiture. She makes no comment on it, merely greeting me with a smile, and I turned my attention to her. Mrs. Hannah Wright is of a whole different air when she's not speaking to the audience. Homely, a bit too friendly for my liking. I guess it comes from being raised in such an environment. Having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Oh, fuck, I got scared there. Fuck. So, I suppose nothing had really changed from the years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? It won't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while, myself. She's probably met a lot of people like the little Becky throughout the years. I'd already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections, after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenus, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
It takes me a while to realize who she's talking about, until Ashton walks by again, in closer proximity than any other times he has done so far this evening. It's still without a look of acknowledgement or way, though, even if Mrs. Ray speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within an earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend then? Because that would explain those rejections.
This isn't the first time someone made that assumption. Almost every student I had in the past, my co-workers, more often than not, assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we are an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's being quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, in the heat of a blush creeps up my cheeks, a denial already is despite wanting it to happen, so bad myself.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
I do my best to summon a straight face, but before her good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I imagined myself to. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I mention who my parents are, her face quickly lights up, and fondness graces her face, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. Of course, there are some things we really can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me, the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, it's an odd thing to talk about as children. Right. There are loads we could have started with.
Oh, I remember you! You were the cutest little thing with glasses! And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the clothes she gave me, chosen, all so I could impress him. Even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock. And that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen, he's a detective for heaven's sake, but feelings, more often than not, escapes him.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes the whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows, until my smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married, to a man she probably loves at that. While I'm stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know? Keep it down.
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
She says that, but for a short moment, a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take it as a chance to change the subject, before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even figured out how I shall feel about the things Luke told me. Now I get dragged into a similar discussion.
So, this is a nice party, Miss Wright.
So, to be frank, I doubt she will be so willing to pass this up. The topic has already captured her attention.
Please, Anna's fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Damn it, my words incident. Like, I have this knot behind my back here, which makes it hard for me to say. Hypocrisy is what it is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing? And then I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. But that, by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another, because I'm the one who has stayed up by his side the longest. When, in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. This is something I cannot force it on him. I can only hold on to this, take care of it, until the time comes that I can confess it to him. We're great if it reciprocates, but if he can't, if he won't. Selfish. I've been too selfish. How laughable that Luke verse still right through up until now.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past weeks had also seen changes in the way I view things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out whatever I previously know may not be the truth for other people, or for myself. It is sobering and almost funny how things I might have said with most certainty before, when I had stopped murdering each of them. But there will be a time to mull about this later. Because when a hush suddenly descends in the room, all different issue areas. Especially when Luke Fucking Luke! Straight into the now quiet ballroom. Fashionable late and oozing with the same pompous mien he always carries around with him.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the right mansion.
Before long, Hannah leaves my side and joins him. It doesn't take a genius to piece it all together.
Welcome one and all to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are our ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
His attitude in the manner he carries himself around people, his unfamiliarity with that part of the city. Of fucking course, I should have known. Also, I'm partly at fault here. Tabloids and the gossip columns have never been really my thing. I should have also expected whatever looks fucking right is. Some sort of drama will sure follow. He seems like the kind of person who revels in it. Here I'll find him on his own, even when he's not asking for it. The hammers amidst a run of applause and hoos. The people lagging behind the crowd they gathered does not catch on until the share turn into several scandalized cast.
I am pregnant with your little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility. God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me.
What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true?
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Johans, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me. I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby? Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
The commotion doesn't go further, despite the drunk woman appearing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up, escorting her out. Apparently, she's the chief inspector's wife too. As if this whole thing can't get any more fucked up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this will bring, I'm more worried about Hannah. Maybe Luke too, in part. I've seen a man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him, no matter how questionable that is now. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman, and Hannah. Well, as refined and well-mannered she is in front of their guest, I'm not sure she will be all too willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman had just dared to walk over it. Yet when I glance at her, there's only defeat, a weary slump on her shoulders, and a certain depth to her breathing. Like the fight has already been drained out of her long ago. I don't know since this has been going on. I don't know either of them well to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some kind of connection with both of them. But the air of a person who visits for respite. It's all too easy to see it in her, as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In a moment before I can think through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to us.
Becca! This is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hannah. Did I not?
Yeah, you did.
Admittedly, this air of familiarity between them, if I mess up, familiarity between them catching me off guard. I won't put it past Hannah. Standing in society compels her to keep appearances, to be the nice to everyone sort of thing. while Zachary's going client base sometimes called for rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Also, from the way it appears, this one seemed to go beyond maintaining a facade or work. I wonder how this friendship came to be. I'd ask, but we started to attract some curious eyes. Most of them are probably searching for the more gossip, something to add fuel to the fire. Thankfully, there's no need to explain it to Zachary. He's aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? We gonna get Hana out of here?
That'd be great.
Soon he's leading the three of us out of the ballroom. Anyone who dares to speak or approach our way out are shut down with a sharp glare. In a few steps we are out, away from the commotion and the suffocating tension. I don't stay long with them though. Even if I want to, Ashton's still somewhere in that crowd. I'd go back for him at least. No matter how much the idea of that alone sends an unpleasant twinge in my stomach.
Hey, I gotta go back in there. Completely forgot my bag like an airhead, and I'll see if I can tag Ash on the way out. You'll be fine here, right, Hannah?
Not to worry, dearie. I'll just be right here.
Zach will be with you if you need anything.
Besides, it seems Zachary can handle this without another person helping out. In fact, for some reason, I got this strange impression he might be intruding on something if I let her remain. Better to entrust this with something she's comfortable with. And though it might be a little inappropriate considering what has transpired, a smile worms its way to my lips as I leave. Good on them, I suppose. Shadow has exploded throughout the whole ballroom once I return. Worded murmurs, clicking of tongues, and inappropriate gossip filter through the thick tension in the room. Most of them haven't even left the premises, they're already talking about it. Tomorrow, it will be on the news for sure. Every local broadsheet and tabloid in Luxburn. No wonder Luke's knee deep in damage control. Is the scandalous woman gone? He has turned his attention on the media covering the event. So far, he isn't faring well in the cleanup department.
Now, people, we all know the drill. I'm sure you're all itching to get a start on those articles.
Good thing Ash Zachary isn't here. I can imagine a man of his temperament dealing with someone like him.
But if I read one word, see one picture about this come morning, even a single shot of the bloody wine glass the harlot held, you will all lose more than your jobs.
Luke's diatribe goes on for another few minutes. Enough that he excuses himself out of the area. There's a brief lull, a reluctant pause, before the place comes astir again, but shortly the bus returns. Dancers have once again taken to the floor, and the guest excited talk begins anew. I'm gonna care less about any of this now. Simply standing in the middle of it already gives me a headache. When the shock has faded, I just feel bone tired. Bon appetit! I accomplished nothing of what I come here for, and apparently Ashton disappeared sometime during the commotion. I'm not sure what pisses me off more, that they ignored me the whole evening, or might just left without saying anything, or knowing that obviously has some other motive for being here. Can he at least trust his own friends for that?
He didn't have to hide it from me.
It's the last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out. More than ready to end this disastrous night as early as possible. And it turns out the night isn't done with me yet. Because no sooner has the porter closed the door behind me, I find myself standing alone in the foyer with one Luke right. No sign of Hannah or Zachary. Just him and the aggregated little clicks of his shoes make while he threads around the empty room. Away from the media's prying eyes and the guests' gushing stares, it's easy to glean how much the scandal has him shaken. Not to the point where he has utterly lost his composure, it appears to have mastered himself enough not to. But an ample opening is there for a nervous edge to show on the lines of his shoulders.
What do you know?
The man is not as tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly, in that 1 second in the hallway at school. In a strange matter, however, to witness this out in the open, behind closed doors, this is the real Luke, right? Though, maybe that's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet, busy as he is with his thinking. If you are aware, although he will be acting like this, his pride is one thing he's always wear with him. Even now, when I place a gentle hand on his shoulder, and he swerves around to face me. There's a second-long moment of anger flashing across his features before dissolving into confusion. He tucks it away as quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression of build of the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics. Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd banner off Luxborn if I could.
He probably pawns everything off their servants and Hannah. Pompous, elitist douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I can already feel one coming tomorrow. I don't need to hear one from you tonight.
You are a very unpleasant man.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
Not everything. And as unpleasant and frustrating Songvister man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The question and criticism are lacking, of course.
You know, brooding over here isn't going to fix this mess.
Wait. I was just gonna shake one thing.
You know, brooding over here isn't going to fix this mess.
Again with the lecture.
Will you stop calling it that?
Very well, what should we call this then? A heart-to-heart? Please don't, I might puke. And just so you know, I don't want to talk about feelings. Ever.
This isn't one, all right? Bloody hell, can't you just take it for what it is?
He pauses at that. Suddenly, he doesn't know. Wait.
This isn't one, all right? It's just a friendly concern.
Suddenly, he doesn't know what to do with his hands. And in the end, he simply stuffs them back to his pockets and sulks. There probably aren't many people who tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with, after all. I honestly won't give him a second of my time if I didn't see a different side to him. Dealing with him requires more than patience. And the awkwardness passes, mostly coming from him. He merely glances away. But the tightness in his shoulders has eased, and when he speaks again, despite his rather rude choice of words, none has any venom in them.
Friendly concern, right. While we're at it, I should mention that Hana used to call that Viper friend. Now I think she might want to strangle the munter if she sees her again. After she's done with me, of course.
I doubt she's going to do anything like that.
What do you even know about this?
Oh, I know enough. You may look like a sleazy douche, and you still are, by the way.
It's almost comical how fast his face shifts from mild disdain to offended, but I don't let it distract me. These things need to be said, and he needs to hear them. Even though they are coming from some meddling stranger.
But you have your few good moments. I might even say that you're a decent person, if I'm in the mood. Now go. If you really love her, you've got to try and fix this yourself.
Maybe tomorrow.
Luke!
Daisy, did you see her earlier? Was that the face of a wife who wants to have a chat with her cheating husband?
Well, at least you admitted you did something wrong. Good for you. How about a star? Would you like a star to go with that good deed?
Don't get used to it. Do you realize how awkward this is?
Oh, I do.
Before I even thought about what to say, I know can only be two ways this can go. All things considered, it isn't as bad as I assumed. However, there are still some things my brand of encouragement can fix. His martial problems, first and foremost. His attitude follows right after. Concern was, where am I? All the choices you can make. All the choices you can make in the world of... And I'm soon at the end. Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things only he can fix. And it's definitely not by standing around here, bantering.
Don't worry, I was just about to leave. Feel free to continue with your brooding once I'm gone. I'm not going to tell anyone. Cross my heart.
Cross my heart and hope to fly. Stick a needle in my eye.
You think this is funny, Daisy?
Laugh is the only response I give him. Too long to read, stop sulking. Achievement log. Well. Well, no more of that thing. With a slight wave of my hand, I end it right there and walk away. Although I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave. If only I have to one last look at the man he really is. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Ooh. Looming, hovering over his shoulder, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Like the first time I stepped inside this place, in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? That man, along with his wife, another person, Miss McCullough. And that shadow, no. A woman now. Her, no longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body. A crippling sensation gripping every part of me, while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring in the eyes of a woman unknowingly robbed of something precious. I try to say something, a warning. But before I can gather my wits and voice it out, someone shuts the door behind me, as if to keep outsiders away from the secret of the mansion possesses. A brush of fresh air against my cheeks does little to dampen the chill in my bones. I know the sensation, the fear and disquiet, at least whenever I see her. It's familiar enough for me. Already, it has made a home in my nerves. I don't even know my trembling hands until I cross my arms, cross my chest. The cold from the tips of my fingers seeps through the thick material of my shirt. Neither of it helps bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head. But I know I should.
Someone has to tell that douche.
I start walking back before fear can cripple me again. It's not wise. Return it is. especially after what happened. And Hannah's still an old friend, and Luke doesn't deserve whatever misfortune the letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabel's right. She's real. And there's something she wants from everyone who has read that.
Becca, where'd you go off to?
If you're done here, let's go. I'll get you back to the city. My mistake. The second his voice cut through the crisp night air is that I will love my annoyance to get the better of me. Huh. Damn it, cold. I hate you. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. The straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't help my temper, my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into him.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time since that mess in the hall. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgive him, if he'd shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, giving me a sign that my assumption might be right. It doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst the fake tension, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself.
No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over his car. Also, before I can pull up and open the door, he calls out. One hand outstretched, a gentle weight on my shoulder.
Wait, Becca.
He pauses, his brow furrowing and lips curving into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will only come out blunt and coarse when forced. But today, for a reason or another, I simply can't summon that forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again...
Becca, listen. I don't know how else...
That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
The silence I can offer him, but whenever I will believe what he's about to say is still up for debate. A very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hannah Wright, and somehow you're friends with her. But you should stay away from these people for now. Especially the husband.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at the mention of the name, but whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about this has greatly displeased him, evident in the stiff note in his tone he assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
Care to explain your reasons?
I'm not meant for it to sound as harsh as it does, but anger and frustration have never been a good match in me, particularly in nights like this. It's not surprising when Ashton jerks back, as if I struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt tossed across his features, his eyes narrowing and hands closing tightly into a fist at his side. Then swiftly he glanced away and shifted his focus on the line of trees nearby. Like an answer can be gleaned from the darkest spans.
I'm really sorry, Becca.
What is it for? For the party? The vague answer he continues to give? Does it include all those times before this? The year's worth of it? I don't doubt its sincerity. However, at the moment, the forgiveness he's asking isn't something I'm all too willing to hand, furious as I am. It's frankly a wonder how I can keep myself from raising my voice at him.
We'll talk about this tomorrow, and you better have a proper answer for me by then.
There's a brief hesitation before I step away. A short moment of wanting to say more, of waiting if he has anything to add. He's only silent, his eyes still trained at a distance. It is the last glimpse I see of him before I climb inside the car. The door slams closed with the same force as the anger I'm holding, his son merely vanishing into the night, unnoticed. He follows soon after, and shortly we are on our way back to the city. Yet, even with the city bright lights welcoming us, the dense sombre air from the mansion still lingers. And how long do I have left then? So many, like, Hannah is the longest one so far. Like, if you see all of these choices, holy shit, it's just so long. I mean, soon done, soon done. Yet even with the moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salemwell. Even after our respective heads had cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself had no idea what to do when he alights and waddles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I call it driven in a way, purely out of spite. The second gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late. National Flat is on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him right now, but I'm not too cruel to put him up for another long drive. Especially when he still appears as he hasn't gotten any interest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with wary expression, shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. It does give me another questioning glance when I saw past him, pulling my mobile in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please. Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again? I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
Of course, he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's even seen anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. But this is another loose end tonight I can't just leave alone. Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It's just so happened that it's one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
I spent so many years with him to know this is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand.
Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead, although I know he has a whole case of it prepared inside his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops and turns to face me with an expression almost too conflicted.
Are you really sure?
What?
That there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go. And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappeared behind the stairs. Things aren't as strained. You might have a quip or two about that, followed by light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I am left staring after him. There's something in the way he asks it that nags. However, with his expression, the whole exchange used to feel unsettling. One that doesn't fade, even as I gather my thought and shift my focus on another. Even as I dial Professor Andrew's number. And that is when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerged from the unease. Ashton has not intended for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what though? For my well-being? For the letter's curse? For the woman I mentioned? The answer for those I will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects and the Professor Andrew's voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Rebecca? It's late. What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all, this is a more pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake, and we're still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor.
Professor Andrew Clark has agreed to meet me 2 days later in front of Luxburn Public Library. He has other commitments, but being a long-time family friend has its perks. I have my parents' connection to thank for that. Of course, I'm not sure to impose on him often, but the situation is, well, it's not entirely bad, although it does require calling in a few favors from a friend like him. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. If I want to get more in-depth information on the American Mansion, that is, not simply the way what they choose to show in the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor, and whatever it is, I won't ever find it in the general section. It has to be what they're keeping here, beyond the public eye. The thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have the brood over it. The wait for the professor doesn't last long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he disliked people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greeting me with the kind of smile and casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long, but it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew.
Rebecca.
Yes.
Didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor?
You know I can't possibly do that, even if I can. It feels disrespectful to call you by your name
What?
alone.
What have I been thinking?
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
All right. But just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor, Andrew.
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
He hands me the permit without further prompting. And it's just like he promised. He has also written a recommendation of his signature. It is more than enough to get me those files. I wanted small things before slipping into my pocket. Although when I look back up, his brows are furrowed with the very face of curiosity. Not surprising, considering how vague I've been during our little talks over the phone. Right there and there, I decided to tell him if I ever ask. Maybe not all of it, but the stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. As expected, through his inquisitive nature, he asked.
If you don't mind, though, I know you've always been an eager learner, but may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
It's the God mansion, sir.
He's quick to raise an eyebrow at that, and for a while, I fear he'll take a slip of paper back. Is it something I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, you certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. Why, just this past week, I've got a few asking me about that.
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows, too. They are magnificent.
Alright.
Oh, you've seen it.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but they couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't? Luxborn's most popular couple.
Something falls behind his eyes. The warmth in them suddenly gone, like he's reliving a painful distant memory, seeing it play right in front of him. It disappeared almost as soon as it surfaces, but that look has unsettled something in me.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much. But you know, you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Is this about the rights, sir?
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents at the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
Andrew gives me a shoulder, a light squeeze. A gesture a younger me has always appreciated, and quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappeared behind the door to the cafe, until those swimming inside my head finds a woman to rest. Whatever his business is with the rights isn't anything I should concern myself about. But somehow, in the grand scheme of things now, all of it feels only relevant. The how, though, I've yet to find out. And I'm hoping the library will give me the answer I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. The second floor, particularly. I've always considered this place to be a sanctuary, a respite away from the hubbub of the city. Who call it the hubbub? Seriously. As a child, I grew up reading books here, spending hours here to no end, poring over the pages, laying out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now, it feels nothing like it. Silence is mothering, suffocating. Even with how clean they kept the microfiche room, like called the how clean they kept the microfiche room. Like what? Speak English, woman. How entire small it lacks a speck of dust or clutter. Breathing is a struggle for air. Not far into my stay, I begin to long for the noise outside. Perhaps as the way to calm the unease, I start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Falling down, falling down, the ring is falling down, my fair lady. Why? All these things, it has to be that silly nursery rhyme. I'm not an inkling. It does its job, however. It fills the lull with something far less awkward, far less deafening, and that is enough for a distraction. I have business here. Not time for silly daydreams. Only important work to attend to. Even if there's a possibility of it being fruitless, by some means, it feels like I have to do it. If not for me, then for the people who has been affected by this. What do we even call this? A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? If Isabella were here, what will she say? Will she panic? Will she be angry I only listen to her now? It all stems from that one moment in the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this had we only taken her warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives on a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself for it, or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do what little we have. That's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
A good start.
It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microfiche of old newspaper, long kept in a special storage cabinet at the far end of the restriction section. Years since the 1620s and beyond. But before the city of Luxbourne even exists in the records, and the mansion has just been built, the Anselm is nothing more than a small sleepy hamlet near a river. A lot of pieces are missing. Days, sometimes several consecutive weeks, without any records remaining. Often it goes for years. Troublesome, but as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all, considering how far I'm looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste mulling over what record keepers the old Uncle done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
The faint whir of the microfiche machine gives me company as I go with the e-slide. Its image, hoping for something that goes beyond what the local lore knows. There are snippets, little mention of the family that once settled in the house here and there. The usual sing of praises the couple helped brought up what was once a tiny settlement into a buzzing town. Nothing substantial, nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while, until I come by the years after the deaths. The people of Anselm might have loved the Lord William and Lady Elizabeth Armagerd more than their passing, and held them in high esteem in the years after. But it was their daughter that was remembered fondly by the townspeople. If their parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. Remarkable, considering it was a period of recovering from a bout of plague that killed half of the town's populations, including her parents. Well, surprising though. Apparently her time also marked more than superficial changes to the place. Remove things, change law, alter old custom and traditions. If they were done on a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say, but she seems capable enough for more than that. In case of it, the town she rebuilt is what eventually grew to become Luxbourne City, while the nearby Anselm village remained as it was, a relic of the old. A frown swiftly forms on my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one, I try to recall every lesson I've gone through, every book and paper journal I've read. None of those ever mentioned this. It's always Lord and the lady of the house, their endearing child, always an afterthought of those anti-gods. The one who always took her life in the end. There was someone who restored the town from the brink of collapse, or brought the new ideas to it. Is it because she's a woman?
That pisses me off.
Granted, it's not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Not all aspects of her can be considered admirable. But this is history. Some parts are bound to be naturally dwell in the unpleasant territory, whether we like it or not. Witch hunt, for example, become common near the end of her life. Which will be completely unremarkable, and might have gone to become a mere footnote in history, if it didn't involve Lady Charlotte and the very slaves she saved. It caused a quite stir, enough to leave almost a week worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by an entire town, and the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't really have anything to do with this curse, does it? Unless that woman following us and this slave are the same person. A tale of revenge? How cliché. However, with the lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint the illustration, it will start resembling her. But in my field, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. I'll be laughing stuff of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing a palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. A headache is already threatening to form the back of my head, yet I'm nowhere near figuring things out. This is simply too much to take in all at once.
I should have asked for someone's help.
No, I'm at a dead end. I start to gather everything around me, placing them back in the respective envelopes for storage. Emotions no longer new after volunteering yet a number of times. I didn't make much mess anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I have to look somewhere else. The way remains unknown though. But just as I'm about to slip the last of the slides in, something catches my attention. My hand pauses, a micro fichet halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I've set aside instead of taking a careful look at it. Seems like gossip column at first glance, but on a closer look. I slide it back to the reader, again turning to dials to track for the page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear. They must have had this drawing commissioned for this announcement. I don't doubt them. The details are far more intricate. The likeness likely closer how they might have appeared at the time. They both recognizable this way. Also those paintings I've seen in the mansion. However, it's the man standing beside her, Edward Godfrey. According to the article that caught my attention previously, her first cousin and eventually her fiancé. Maybe it's the posture, the manner in which he holds himself. Or maybe it's the shape of his eyes, so I cannot be too certain about that until I got a better reference. And nevertheless, there is such a resemblance. He looked eerily like... My head snaps up, glowering at whoever running in the floor above. Any day, I'd march upstairs and reprimand whoever it is.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
But now isn't the time. I got what I need. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, while my other hand moves to put everything back into storage. A ragged exhale slips from me. Yeah, there's something happening here. I have two choices to make through this. Relief perhaps, or maybe this is already exhausting. Regardless soon, I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish. If only to stave off a headache building up from everything. Sometime I even became humming the same song again for comfort. Despite my thoughts about this, despite all the tension in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's a way out of it. There's a way out of this. I know it. The sprinter sputters to a halt. However, its sound isn't what makes me snap my eyes open. A feeling, a chill brush of air behind my back. Brief enough for something to sickening to suddenly lose itself in my throat while I take in my surrounding. It's that suffocating sensation again. Keeping every part of me, crawling under my skin, draining me little by little for strength. On that day in the mansion, from that brief moment at the school, without delay, I grabbed the papers and made a quick beeline for the door. Ooh. That scared me a bit. My whole body freezes.
What are you doing, Miss Pink?
I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumbling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by cold, seeping dread spreading throughout my limbs. But more than the fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student voice against me. And more than once I believe it was really her. That's no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, there isn't a wall behind me. If there isn't a wall behind me, I will probably take a step back. Anything to put a distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself, because if I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I'm not dying here.
You think you scare me?
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
I'm not afraid of you, you spook. This is one Scotswoman. You aren't getting into an early grave without a fight.
She changed her dialect. You aren't getting into the early grave without a fight. This is one Scotswoman. You aren't getting into an early grave without a fight.
Come at me.
Come at me. I expect she'll learn prove to me that a monster she is. Instead, all she gave me a smile, twisted and gnarled. I see her brain though. It is as if time has crawled a stop at the sight of it. A split-second decision. I'm gonna save here now. And before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation. Hands grabbing whatever solid enough on the nearby table and hurling it at her. I don't bother looking if it whatever I throw hits its mark or run. As fast as my legs can carry me. Despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. But in this maze of bookshelves, with the whole place almost void of people. Is there even a place safe enough I can escape to? If there's one, it's out of this room, out of this place, as far away as anyone can get from her. I can think about the rest of what I can do after I'm outside, where there's other people I can ask for help. When she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps as I race for this restricted section door, head downstairs and barrel straight for my library's exit. Towards safety. In desperate bid for my life. Library rules be damned. I can no longer hear her behind me. I'm not taking any chances. A breath almost escaped me as I neared the door. A little more. And out of nowhere, a library card careers from a blind corner and slams into my side. My back hits the floor with a hard thud, an impact completely knocking the breath out of me. A copper tang of blood gradually spread over my tongue as I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with the excruciating pain coursing through my limbs. Exit almost there, if only can. Oh, if only I can. There's no moment in spite. He's mad, bro. Are you mad, bro? Why are you so mad? Why are you killing everyone? What's wrong with your eyes, by the way? Next thing I know, there's a heavy weight on top of me. Cold digging slides around my neck. Tight like a vice. Pressing, closing, leaving me gasping fire. Through my blurred vision, I can only make out the hateful gleam. The spite in her eyes as she looms over my body. A grip on my throat grows tighter. Desperation kicks in. My nails dig into her wrist as I struggle against her firm grip, trying to pry her fingers away.
Let go. Let me go.
What am I supposed to do then? Too strong, she's too strong. My lungs begin to ache, burning with the lack of air. The pain growing worse every second, a rift under her pushing grip.
Somebody help me.
Longing starts to fill the edges of my vision. Soon the world fades. I didn't think twice. My limbs are moving on their own before what I did could fully register in my brain. And my lungs could recover. Behind me, she let out a cry, sharp, loud, and thunderous against my empty walls of the library. And I feel her veil spring compares nothing to relief washing over me. And I finally make it out. My knees buckle as soon as my feet hit the pavement. The surface cold and hard against my skin. I've only been there for a few hours, but 1 or 2 probably. I don't know anymore. It feels like an eternity all the same. My breathing hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to after going through that. I'll probably look at the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning right now. Out of breath, disheveled, stumped here with a bloodied lip and all. But at present, I simply can't bring myself to care. Even when a few passersby start giving me strange looks. Shut at me all you want, I don't give a single shite. I'm alive. I'm safe. This isn't the end yet. I'm safe. And inside my bag is something I could get out of this mess. And there we have it. Why is it starting over? And that's the death. And only one more choice. Then we are done. But if I went upstairs, there will be these choices. These choices, these choices, this. Other choices. Nothing defined yet. I don't want to get my hopes up, and it's still something. If Isabella's here, I'm sure she'll feel the same. She'll even be the first one who put her face on it. Wherever this leads us to is a victory on its own. Now all that's left to find is the others. The rest of us trapped in this bloody nightmare. Right on cue, as if to answer to my previous thought, my mobile phone lets off the beep. I pick it up, simply hoping it will be one of them. Only it's a voicemail that greets me, from Ashton. There's a pang of disappointment, of course. They bring some assurance that nothing happened to at least one of them.
Hey Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk. ASAP.
He answered right there. The message less than a minute long. Cord and gives nothing away. I let it ease my worries regardless. Do as he's asked. Because of this, too, it's another triumph for us. One less thing to worry about. Ashton. So the next one is Ashton. But we're gonna stop it right there. But I'm not gonna stop streaming yet. I'm gonna change some settings of YouTube, and in 30 minutes, around 30 minutes or 20, I will start streaming The Witcher 3. Taking a break from all this talking and stuff like that. And I will be playing Witcher 3. So I'll see you in 20-30 minutes. Good luck out there, draglings. See you soon.